You're listening to the 5-Minute Friday podcast episode of The Aligned Self. This is your host, Daniel J-Novi. Okay, 5-Minute Friday, a short and concise podcast episode of The Aligned Self, designed to leave you with a question, an idea, a strategy, a tip, a hack, in order to give you greater access to your conscious awareness, evolving your conscious awareness, or give you greater mastery over your mind. Hello, friend, and welcome into this 5-Minute Friday. You know, I was going to do a follow-up episode to the last episode that I did called Manifesting Big Things, where I talked about a letter that someone had sent and offered some tips on manifesting big things in your life, differentiating or not differentiating between the small things and the big things. Well, I was doing a follow-up episode, and I realized it had gotten quite cumbersome. So I'm going to break it up into a series. I'm going to re-record it, and it'll be released over the next couple weeks. You could almost think of it as Manifesting 101, because I realized that in thinking about the topic when I address it, there's a certain amount of assumption on my part that you know what law of attraction is. You know how the manifesting process works. So, and a lot of people have seen The Secret, and that's all they know. Other people have listened to other speakers, Neville Goddard, Abraham Hicks, Gabby Bernstein, and a variety of other people have talked about the law of attraction. But I thought I'd go back to the beginning and take it from concept to creation. So if you have any specific questions around manifesting, around law of attraction, go to our Facebook group, and if you're not yet a member, please request to be added, and just go to the Aligned Self Podcast Listeners Facebook group, the Aligned Self Podcast Listeners Facebook group. And the link is in the show notes. You can do a search and request to join the group. And when the secret question is how did you hear about the Facebook group, you just answer on the podcast. That way I know you're a listener. The other thing I wanted to make you aware of is that I'm currently offering a discount on my customized, personalized hypnotic audios. And I don't offer this very often because, frankly, it's labor intensive. We do an interview where I get to know what you want to achieve, what you want to create. I get some of your backstory so I can personalize the audio, of course, and then I create it. So it takes a bit of time. It takes about a week or so for me to create it for you. And then you'll be able to listen to it again and again and again, as often as you like. Some people listen to it just a few times and get an immediate result. Some people get the result and they want to reinforce it over time. And frankly, it just feels good to go into trance. Well, that offer is going to be pulled this coming Monday over the weekend and won't return until 2023. And it might not return in 2023. I might change my mind. I'm putting my energy into other areas. But if you think you're interested in your own personalized, customized hypnotic audio, go to yesdaniel.com and check it out and register today. Register soon. I might just keep it up a week until the end of the following week. I don't even know what the date is. Maybe the 9th or 10th. And that way, if you don't listen to this right away, you still have an opportunity to get involved if you want. And if you want to learn more about trance in general, how it is the perfect learning state, you can go back to episode 124, where it's all about trance. And just one more quick announcement. I'm still registering people for my Aligned Self signature coaching program to redesign your self-concept, to upgrade your self-concept, your self-identity. And I have had some questions come up around the program and what it's like, what do I work on? And I'm going to do a special episode just on that, a Q&A that I'll release over the weekend. So in this 5-Minute Friday, I want to address a question. I'd like you to begin asking yourself a question, just, to learn something about yourself. You're one of those people, I'm sure, since you're listening to this podcast, and we talk about things about personal development and spirituality and law of attraction, intuition, consciousness. I'd like you to take a look at where does your motivation come from? Now, this distinction is subtle, and you may have to really think about it. So, is it A, are you seeking to become better, to improve who you are? Or B, are you curious about what's possible for your life? What are the limits to your potential? You see, from position A, we're making up for some deficit that we think we have. We want to improve, be a better expression. We want to overcome maybe past programming, or maybe we have some bad habits or some less than desirable habits. Bad, good, it's all open to interpretation. It depends on the context from which you're viewing it from, whether or not it is good or bad, productive or unproductive. But this question that I'm throwing out here for you to take a look at, where is your motivation coming from? What is the source of your motivation to learn, to become better, to expand? Is it coming from a sense of making up for it? Now, this is going to point to one of those shadow beliefs that I talked about, where on some level, there's a belief underneath it all that maybe you're not good enough. Maybe you're not capable enough. Yet. I didn't ask this question of myself until I was in my 40s, about my mid-40s, when I realized that just about all my activity, all my accomplishments were created, achieved, in an effort to appear as if I was worthwhile. I was seeking outside validation. I wanted other people to recognize that I had accomplished something. But once I made the distinction, once I realized where it was coming from, then I could shift my pursuit, change how I approach personal development. I started looking at what was possible as a human being. I really started to narrow in on this whole idea of self-actualization. If I was to fulfill all my potential, what might that look like? What boundaries can I push, or could I push, that I'm not currently pushing? Does that make sense? Okay, here's a point of reference. In 1988, I walked on hot coals for the first time, but I did it in an effort to overcome fear. I wanted to create a different relationship with fear, because fear stopped me a lot when I was younger. And then over the next 15 years, I walked with different people because I wanted a different experience. But it wasn't until 2003, when I left Federal Express, when I became certified as a firewalk instructor. I sought out Tolly Burkan, who is considered to be the father of American firewalking. He taught Tony Robbins and a whole group of other people. But I knew that there was something in the firewalk experience that up until then, I had only glimpsed. I was looking at what was possible. What didn't I know about myself? What was, like the last podcast, or 5 Minute Friday, what didn't I know that I didn't know? I wanted to explore and push the boundaries. And so I thought one of the perfect ways to begin doing that is to become certified as a firewalk instructor and do it for myself, teach other people. And some of the most memorable walks I ever had were solo walks, where I was in my backyard. I built a fire, spread out the coals, and I walked it different ways, just to have different experiences. I walked it when it was really, really hot. I did a 10-foot walk, a 15-foot walk, and a 20-foot walk. And then I walked from one end to the other, and then turned around and walked back to where I started, only to turn around again and walk back to the other side. I did that for about 14 to 15 times, which is about 165 feet of walking on coals. On another note, I pushed a quilting needle, a 6-inch quilting needle, through my hand while in a trance state from back to front. Now, something that I didn't know and I'll tell you about that, that the palm of your hand is really thick. It took me a lot of effort to push that needle through the palm of my hand. But once it broke through the skin, I pulled it all the way through my hand with no bleeding. And you might ask, why would I do such a thing? Well, it's the same reason I went and got certified as a firewalk instructor. Because I wanted to call into existence, gain access to that part of my being, that part of you that is seldom called into existence through the normal day-to-day demands. I wanted to push the boundaries. And frankly, that's why I just love the law of attraction, the art of manifesting also, because it's all about what's possible. Because we don't want instant manifestations. We just don't. Because we want the journey of discovery. We want the process of becoming, of allowing ourselves to be expressed in a new way, so that we're a vibrational match to attract a new reality, to create a new reality. Because it's all about creation. You don't want to do the same thing, be the same thing day in, day out, do you? Well, I have to admit, some people do. But most of you don't. Most of you want the variety and the spice of life. You want to do something different. Be something different from day to day, if only just a little bit. So that was my question to get you thinking a little bit, to look within. What is your internal motivation? What drives you to become better? Is it to make up for some perceived deficit, or is it to explore what is possible? And this is where you get to be really honest with yourself. Because I all know what you want the answer to be, but get really clear with yourself. Be honest with yourself. Because when you're honest and you can look at the real internal motivation, it actually opens something up for you. You see, you are already whole, complete, and perfect. Imperfectly perfect. You see, Michelangelo is considered one of the greatest sculptors of all time. After he created the sculpture, The Angel, he was asked, how did you create such a thing? And he said, I didn't create anything. I saw the angel inside the block of marble. I simply released him. I chipped away the excess. I chipped away what was not needed and revealed the statue within. You see, you are a masterpiece inside already. Your authentic self, your true self, is inside. But it's been covered up with projections and misperceptions about who you are and what you're capable of. You've been programmed to think less of yourself. And I don't care who you are, how accomplished you are. Chances are, when you look yourself in the mirror, you feel a bit inferior in some aspect of your life. I've met college professors with 3 PhDs. Three PhDs. And when they're alone, when they are really honest with themselves, they don't feel smart. They feel like they're an imposter. And they tell me it's a strange dichotomy because on one hand, they have the degrees, they know that they have the credibility. Yet inside is still this belief that they're not smart enough, they're not good enough. And that's probably why they have 3 PhDs, because one just wasn't enough. And I want to contrast that with Linus Pauling, who won the Nobel Prize in chemistry. And once he won the Nobel Prize, he was asked, so what do you do once you win the Nobel Prize? And he thought for a moment, and he said, well, change fields, of course. And so he began studying biochemistry. He says, I have more to learn, more that I want to discover. And well, he won the Nobel Prize later in biochemistry. Well, that's it for this extended 5-Minute Friday. This is your friend and host, Daniel Denovi, urging you to follow your bliss, live your life from inner signals, be inner directed as you engage in the epic adventure.